One day, in the temple, Jesus told a story meant for the religious leaders and priests in the crowd. There was once a man who planted vines and prepared everything needed to grow good grapes and turn them into wine. Then he had to go abroad, so he put tenants in charge of his vineyard. When the grape harvest was due, he sent a servant to collect his share of the grapes as rent. But instead of handing over what they were owed, the tenants beat up the servant and sent him off empty-handed. The owner sent another servant, and then another, but every time the tenants ill-treated and sometimes killed them. The owner decided to have one more try. "I'll send my son to them," he said, "and they're sure to show him respect." But those wicked tenants seized the owner's son, killed him, and threw out the body. Then they thought that once they'd got rid of him, they would become the owners. "What do you think the owner will do next?" Jesus asked his listeners. "He will come himself and take the vineyard away from those tenants," they mumbled in reply. Silence followed. Jesus' hearers knew very well what his story meant. The nation was often pictured as a vineyard. They, the leaders, were the tenants, put in charge by God. Many kings and leaders of the nation had refused down the centuries to take notice of God's servants, the prophets. They were refusing to listen to God's last and most important messenger, his own son. Even now, they were plotting to kill him. But instead of heeding the warning, the priests and leaders grew even more determined to get rid of Jesus. They would have seized him then and there, if they'd dared. But the ordinary people loved Jesus. So his enemies slunk away, burning with hatred and planning to kill him at the very first opportunity. When Jesus rode into Jerusalem at the beginning of the Passover celebrations, his disciples were even more excited than the crowds. They had longed for the day when Jesus would appear openly as a king. Perhaps at last that day was near. But Jesus kept patiently warning them that he was not going to be that kind of earthly king. At first, he would rule only in the hearts of his followers. Soon he would be arrested and killed, and after that, he would come alive again, forever, and his kingdom would spread through the whole world. Most of the disciples still did not grasp what Jesus meant, but Judas Iscariot began to understand only too well. He was an ambitious man. He loved money. He, more than any of them, had looked forward to the day when, as one of King Jesus' chief advisors, he would have power and wealth. But Jesus' words at the Bethany dinner party, when Mary poured out her precious perfume, made Judas realize that Jesus was preparing for a very different future. He did not intend to become an earthly king and throw off Roman rule. Now Judas' dreams of wealth and power would never come true. He had been wasting the best years of his life. He was bitterly disappointed and sick at heart. He knew that the priests and leaders of the nation needed someone on the inside to help them if they were to succeed in arresting Jesus. Someone who could tell them where to find Jesus when no crowds were present. Judas made his way to the temple, where he knew he would find the council members and priests. "How much money will you give me if I tell you where and when you can catch the man you want?" he asked. The conspirators' faces brightened. This was too good to be true. They had scarcely expected help from one of the man's own followers. Someone pulled out a bag of money and carefully counted out the silver coins. "There you are, Judas," he said, 30 of them. "And you can have them now. Let us know as soon as possible where to find your master." Judas walked off, his thoughts in a whirl. From now on, he must watch carefully for the best way to keep his side of the bargain with his new masters. Now we're going to go to our Easter gardens and add something to represent those stories. So now we're going to add to our garden again. I've got some coins to represent the coins, the 30 pieces of silver that Judas took at the end of our story to portray Jesus with.